meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Pierce? Here. Mr. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Chauncey?
Here.
Mr. Custer?
Here.
Mr. Johnston?
Here.
Mrs. Lugo? Here. Mr. Saborski?
Here.
Mr. Plesky?
Here. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Also, I'd like to add, if people would keep some people in prayer. We had this explosion down here over the weekend, and I'm not sure the total number. Nobody was killed that I know of, but there were several injured. Some of them were very close to the explosion. I believe that gentleman's getting out of the hospital, so just keep these folks in your prayer. I don't know the names or anything, but I believe there was about a dozen of them injured down in the explosion.
Good evening, everyone. Begin with the committee of the whole here this evening, and we'll start off with some presentations, and we'll start with Ella as our student representative.
Good evening, it's Ella. I'll be informing you of what's going on in Cambridge Springs. Last Tuesday, Cambridge Springs High School had the opportunity to travel to the Erie Insurance Arena to watch an Erie Otters hockey game, which was fun time for all. The Otters won too. Although we had to leave early to get back to the school in time, I know a lot of the students were watching live streams of it on the bus and back at school. Cambridge Springs has recently moved our advisory or study hall to after third period instead of after fourth period. So all the students in the building, including junior high, now have it at the same time. This way, students who are behind can catch up easier to go to the teacher if they need help. This was an issue before, since a lot of teachers teach both senior and junior high, so during your advisory, your teacher had junior high, and you're like, dang. So, now you can get help from those teachers, which is great, and it's been working really well so far. Last week and this week has been really big for sports. Last Wednesday was the girls wrestling team last match together as a team before they personally go off further. Thursday was the girls basketball team's senior night, and Friday night the boys basketball team defeated Commodore Perry away. This Friday will be the boys senior night against Jamestown. The last week of February is Business Week in Cambridge Springs, so the juniors will be able to make their own business and compete against each other with their businesses. This is a great opportunity, and they are all excited. The school podcast, Cambridge Speaks, with the series Tell Ella Everything, is releasing new episodes a little more than once a week since I've started doing Tell Ella Everything Sports Edition. So check that out with the latest on girls wrestling, and this Wednesday is boys wrestling. Here in front of you, I've placed the January edition of the Pitchfork. The Valentine's Day edition is coming out at the end of the week. In the Valentine's edition is featured our Candy Heart Messages, where a student can send another student a little note anonymously, or not, you can sign it. We've got over 65 responses. I would know, I'd have typed them all personally out. So keep following us up on our socials and be sure not to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Next is our PAEA representative, Debbie Miller.
She's such a hard act to follow. But I am
She gets
proud.
better every month.
Well, good evening, PENNCREST. My name is Debbie Miller, and I speak on behalf of nearly 200 educational leaders in our district. Let me begin by saying we were all immediately having the Sagertown community in our thoughts and prayers yesterday as we heard the news of the explosion at Parker Lord. On behalf of the numerous calls and texts, and let me tell you, I got a lot, let me say that our teachers want to help and came to work today ready to lend our support for our students and their families. And they will be and will continue to be watchful to notice students in need during this difficult and scary time. Speaking of uneasiness, I would be hiding it if I said that the announcements of changes to the Department of Education at the federal level did not have our educators' attention. Many questions of what that will look like and its impact have us concerned. But concern should be a motivator. It is foreseeable that our funding sources will be changed. Most commentary speculates that the decisions and hopefully the allocations will be left to the discretion of the state. That means more local control, but also more local responsibility. Areas such as the needs of our most vulnerable, our learning support students, will no longer be under the protection of federal mandates and will become our responsibility. We need to be vigilant to provide equal and even elevated support for these students. So logic would say that we need to get ahead of the game. We need to put plans in place now to align PENNCREST to receive those funds that will support our students. Last spring, many of us noted that PENNCREST needs to do more to show the state that we are worthy or eligible for the highest levels of funding. Now, more than ever, we need to get ahead of the game and find out from our district financial and educational leaders what needs to be done. I remember the long budget meetings last spring and our business manager explaining that we need to do more locally to gain more from the state. Now more than ever, with more decisions and, like I said, more responsibilities, we need to work proactively to solve our issues. Let's initiate a task force under the direction of our financial and academic leaders to position PENNCREST to get the highest possible funding from the state. Also, let's plan ahead to provide smaller class sizes, more opportunities, and specialized education for all of our students. Let's not wait until the budget is due to realize the state of affairs. Let's plan now to get all of the funding and then utilize all of the resources, people, time, and money to bring PENNCREST to the top. I know that the PAEA leadership is here to help, and our teachers too. We have ideas and we are willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Next presentation is by our local audit, Steve Felix. Are we all connected? Okay. Steve, you're up?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Do you guys have the report in front of you, or did you want me to share my screen, or?
Can you share your screen?
I think I saw the option here. Yeah. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Of course. Let's try that one.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so the first part of here, I'm going to go over the auditor's report. That's part of the financial statements here. It's actually the only part of the financial statements that's our responsibility. The rest of the responsibility of management and the board. In the first paragraph there is the opinion paragraph. It states we have audited the financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the PENNCREST School District as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2024. The next paragraph states, in our opinion, the company and financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the PENNCREST School District as of June 30th, 2024. So in other words, a clean opinion, which is what we strive for every year, we have to go with financial statement audit. Next paragraph there, the basis for our opinion is that we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as with government auditing standards. And down below, manager's responsibilities for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, and for the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control over those financial statements. Next page here, the auditor's responsibility for the audit is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement whether due to fraud or error, and then to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. We're going to skip ahead to page 20 here. This is a balance sheet of the governmental funds as of June 30th, 2024. We'll focus on the general fund column, which is where a majority of the district's activity lies. We have total assets of $23,513,000. Total liabilities of $7,650,000. Deferred inflows of resources of $901,000. So that left us with total fund balance of $14,961,000. That's broken up into several categories. First was non-spendable for prepaid items of $247,000. Then we got $2.2 million in committed fund balance for those items noted there. And also about $7.5 million in assigned fund balance broken out into those 5 categories. So that left us with unassigned fund balance of $4,836,000. Now if we look at page 24, this is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the general fund comparing the budget and the actual. We'll look at the budgeted column first. We have total revenues of $57,187,000. Expenditures of $57,442,000. Other financing uses of $335,000. The overall decrease in fund balance of $589,000 is what we anticipated at the beginning of the year. Then if you look at the actual column, we have total revenues of $58,946,000. Expenditures of $57,263,000. Other financing uses of $729,000. So overall, we had a positive change in fund balance of $953,000. So about $1.5 million difference as far as where we expected to be to where we actually ended up. The majority of that we can explain above in the revenue side. Our budgeted or our actual revenues for local sources were $966,000 more than we had anticipated. And the majority of that is in our real estate and earned income tax collections. And on the state side, we were about $812,000 more than we had anticipated. And that's majority related to the retirement subsidy being more than we had budgeted for. Now, if we look at the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for our proprietary fund, which is our food service fund, with total operating revenues of $188,000, operating expenses of $1,773,000. So that resulted in an operating loss of $1,585,000. But based on the nature of the food service, that's not uncommon, given the majority of our revenues come from state and federal subsidies, which are based on meals served, which are noted down below there, and our non-operating revenues to the tune of about $1,771,000. So overall, we did have a positive change in net position of $186,000 in the food service fund. And then lastly, our statement of changes in our student activity funds. We had total additions of $82,000, reductions of $84,000, so overall a decrease in that position of $2,400. The rest of the report, there's footnotes, supplementary information, and but there was no new items to go over, so I wasn't going to hit on any of that. We did have to perform a single audit since the district expended over $750,000 of federal funding. We tested the Title I program and the IDEA program, but we're pleased to say we had no findings in either of those programs. And then throughout the financial statement audit, we had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to bring to your attention. So in other words, a fairly clean audit for this year. I did want to thank Kristen and Cynthia for their help during the audit, getting us all the information we needed in order for us to do our job. It was very much appreciated, so thank you very much. Did anyone have any questions on that information that I went over?
Just out of curiosity, the 966, I think I heard you right, 966,000 more from real estate taxes. Was that the right number? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, it was between
Okay.
real estate and earning.
Is that reliable moving forward, or will that vary? Like, why was there such a difference? Is that a varying amount?
Collection rate,
Okay.
depending on who pays their taxes.
receive some
Yeah,
extra back
typically most
taxes?
districts
or-
that we do.
So that's a
audit,
normal
They
fluctuating.
usually want to budget on the conservative side, which is what, you see here, because it can change, 1% collection rate can change that number decently, so usually it's on the conservative side when it's budgeted.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you coming and presenting tonight.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And if you do have any questions throughout the year or anything, please feel free to contact me. I think Kristen should have my contact information, if you ever do.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you guys. I'll try to stop sharing.
Next up, nutrition. You wanted a couple minutes here. Thank you for the passing out that.
This is a little easier to swallow than all those numbers he was throwing out there, I hope. As I'm sure you all remember, I'm Katie Baldwin. I'm a parent here in the district, and I'm also your regional manager. So we just wanted to bring you a little treat today, show you what we've been up to. We've been doing a lot of really fun stuff. I also brought you a little packet with a little, photo book of everything we've been up to. So in the fall, we had our mascot, as I like to call her, Molly. She came to visit. And there's a picture of her at Sagertown Elementary School, snuggled up to my friend Bryn there, and she handed out cheese sticks and talked all about calcium foods. We also have done some really fun events with Chef Jason, who is a Maplewood native. He came and did a really fun apple cider presentation. He also did apple nachos with Nicole out at Maplewood Elementary School, and that went really, really well. We used Haggie's Orchard, which is a local orchard here. That's always a really fun Apple Crunch Day event. We also have a picture of Tammy Gruber, who's my regional nutritionist. She is based out of Crawford. She came over and did a pancake action station at Cambridge Springs Elementary School back in the fall. Kids had a blast topping their own pancakes. And we're just always up to something new. So I'm going to let Nicole tell you a little bit about our big fun that we had last week when our corporate team came to get your students' opinion on what is new, hip, and cool.
So we had a special food tasting at Sagertown High School. We were selected. There was only 8 schools selected out of I don't know how many, and we had 15 students attend, and we tried about 20 different items, varying from breakfast items to lunch items, which is some of what you have in front of you. It's a cold ramen salad and tortellini Alfredo. And then they also tried some grab-and-go items and some ice cream. All the kids had a blast. They absolutely loved the cold ramen salad. And then what you also have in front of you is, I'm a trained pastry chef, and so to give you a little sweet treat as well, I made a burnt almond cupcake with vanilla pastry cream in the center, buttercream frosting, and toasted almonds.
Wow.
Nicole's been a big asset here at PENNCREST. We've been able to do some more caterings, which has been great. We love to do those. It gives us an opportunity to treat our staff and our faculty with something upscale and special. They do a lot of really hard work around here, so we want to make sure that they feel that. So all of it's paying off. We've had a really great year. So far, we are doing about 3% more breakfasts and 4.5% more lunches than last year. So not compared to budget, because we always write a conservative budget here at PENNCREST, but this is compared to what kids were eating last school year. And this is with a small drop in enrollment. So, really, I think all of these things that Nicole and the team are doing, it's getting the kids' attention. We're hearing what they want. We're making, changes and adjustments, and it's all going really well. And the staff have been really receptive to the ideas that we have. We collaborate a lot. We talk a lot about how are we going to get this done, because they work really hard and they don't have a lot of time to do things. So sometimes we have to get creative, and they're always willing to sit and chat with us and make sure that we can pull it off as a team, and it's going really well. So we hope you enjoy your goodies tonight, and if there's anything we can ever do for you, please let us know.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
How did last October go? I know it was way back at the beginning of the year, but that smash burger thing you guys...
Amazing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how'd you do that anyways? What was, you get the kids to come, they try it out. Did you get a good response on the food and the stuff that you were getting?
I think they've been asking for it, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They absolutely loved it. And we got fresh local ground beef, and we had our regional chef Jason that we spoke about earlier. He came in and helped us out with the event. Some kids were they bought like 2 or 3 burgers. And they piled them. We offered different toppings as well too, and it was a huge hit. We gave them recipes and stickers. It was a whole thing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
We want to do it again next year. We want to find a local beef farm. We did this at Crawford Central. They have Dunn Family Farm, which is right in Cochranton. They supply the beef for that program. And then in Conneaut, as a response to the program we were running, there's Andrew Farms in Kahani Valley is actually supplying the beef for that program now. So if there's anybody in the PENNCREST School District that is a beef farmer and USDA certified, we'd love to chat with them and see if they want to partner with the PA beef program, because the kids just love it. So yeah, Carly's son is in there with his tray of 2 giant burgers. He loved that event.
Oh yeah, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it's great. So, great question.
I won't bother you now, but I'll email you with some details about, like, if you know, like, roughly, like, how much beef and that, because I have some friends that in the area that I just would need more details to give them, but I'll email you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent.
I knew we'd find somebody in this crowd, right? Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Enjoy your evening, everyone. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, under my report this evening, I'll start with snow days. It's been an interesting winter, and it doesn't look like it's done anytime soon either. So we are now 1 day over our planned snow days for the year. There were 3 built into the calendar. We are now at 4. So we've used 4, excuse me. So we'll need the 1. As I stated last month, if we had additional, we have the option that I would recommend, and for a couple reasons. We have the option now, the state has changed. You either have the option of doing 180 days of school, or you can do enough hours, 990 or 900 hours, based on elementary, high school. We are well over our hours. We qualify for that. We could actually qualify for up to close to 30 days if needed, if we ever had a true emergency situation. So back in the day, previously, what PENNCREST did and a lot of districts did is they had Act 80 days. Act 80 days were days that the teachers would train, and they would come in and have in-service days. The students wouldn't come in, but they would get credit for that toward that 180 days. With the hours now, there isn't such thing as an Act 80 day per se, but it would be similar. Most schools, looking at your history, I went back and looked at it, a lot of times you were at 176, 177 days, depending on what it was. And so my recommendation for right now is that we utilize the 1 overage right now, and we utilize the hours to cover that. Doesn't need board approval. I can do it. We can do it with the state, but naturally, I want the board to be a part of that conversation. So, and then the teachers would still make up. They would still fulfill their 186 days, and we would either work toward the end of the year or I have a couple other ideas floating through my head of things that have been tried throughout the state. So. Again, we have another day coming up this week that's looking iffy that we're going to have to look at. So we're just getting hit with a good winter this year, and we're just going to have to adapt and adjust. So that would be my recommendation. I don't think going forward. Probably the primary reason for that right now is we have the construction project starting at Cambridge Springs. And so if we back up the school year into that next week, we are planned right now to hit the ground running literally that afternoon of the last day of school. I mean, things are going to be coming in, the construction crews moving in. So that's probably the primary reason why I'd recommend that. The other one is I don't like to move graduations. People plan for that. They have grandparents coming in, they have relatives coming in. So I don't like to move graduation unless we have so many days that we have no choice. We have done it before. We could do it, but I would prefer to see if we can do this and maybe get through this winter with this maybe no more than a day or 2 more. So, thoughts on that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go into the depth. We have Mr. Baker wasn't able to join us tonight. He's a little bit under the weather. But right now, currently at Maplewood, talking about girls soccer at Maplewood, we had sign-ups last week, started to have sign-ups, and we are currently signed up. There were 3 girls that signed up. We ended the year last year struggling to field a team of 11. We were consistently under, down to 7 at one point, got back up, recruited some other girls, never got back up to the full allotment of 11 students on the field. So I'm not prepared to make a full recommendation, but I think it's important that we communicate honestly to our communities, and we don't all of a sudden spring this at a meeting. So I want to know that we're going to have this conversation coming up. We're going to extend that sign-up deadline for another week to make sure. We're going to do the announcements. We're going to try to make sure if there are any students that want to play, that we want to know that. But on the other hand, I think we're going to have to make a decision sooner than later whether we're going to continue with that program or bring those programs together as one program within the district. Cambridge and Sagertown are already together, so I think that we need to have that conversation. Mr. Baker was getting the data, so that's about all I can say about it right now. It's what I know right here this evening, but I think it's important that we as a board have that discussion and talk about that. I think there's safety concerns. Anytime you don't put enough students out on the field, that's a big concern. We have to be very, very careful of that. I've been doing this a long time and been an AD for a long time, and I don't want to jeopardize students playing 11 against 7. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. Go ahead, Randy.
Where are we in the PIAA enrollment cycle?
We would be okay. You mean if we?
Because when we combine,
yes,
we can't do it within the cycle, or else we can't go to playoffs.
My understanding is we would be able to be in the playoffs. Okay. I've done some check. I did check with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's every 2 years, right?
Right.
So.
Well, we just went into the new cycle though.
Okay. All right.
All right. But I was told because of the numbers that we would be okay to participate in the playoffs by a District 10 person on the committee.
Okay. Yeah.
Not by the chair. That will be if we go further with this, I will want that in writing.
I was gonna say we need to get that in writing, otherwise.
Yes.
But I had it. You're not going to the District 10 playoffs.
Correct. Right.
I think the communities though are prepared. I talked to the club. The club has already been combined.
Okay.
The middle school club has been combined for a while. So I spoke to them. Numbers are similar to what you were saying. I can give you that guy's information, or maybe Tom reached out to the club, because that would also be, right, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th graders. That club has been combined and is already in the process of combining. French Creek
3
Soccer
through
Club.
7, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Randy, you may know more, is the CCYSA, is it like dying?
So that's not a club, that's just a soccer camp. Actually, no, the PENNCREST numbers in club sports are going up quite a bit from what I think. We have enough now to actually have a club. It used to have to be in the Meadville. But there was enough PENNCREST players that they separated the PENNCREST players into its own club, and so now there's a French Creek club. And they're just getting organized. They fielded the girls, they've been fielding the girls, and Sarah Watson set out something for the boys, and I know they're going to field a 3rd and 4th grade team for the girls, and so, but that's combining all PENNCREST students. And so I think they were anticipating this, and they broke away, seemed to be, from the Meadville club to form their own PENNCREST club.
Okay.
That's, Teresa, you may know a little bit more. You went through the program in club soccer, which is...
Yeah, the feeder programs are working, which is a good thing, because, yeah, when my son played on soccer, they had 12, and then it went down to 11. So there were no subs.
Yeah.
So it was difficult, and like you said, it's a safety concern too.
Right.
You never know what'll happen on the field.
Well, I want to put my 2 cents in, and I don't want to go overboard with it, but I've talked to quite a few people on the soccer thing, and they do have enough people to play soccer, but there's something more to it, which I'm not going to get personal about it, but the reason the girls aren't playing, there's a reason behind it, and that's all I'm going to say. There is enough girls that want to play in the spring and fall, but they're not for a reason. So we'll leave it at that. So it is for a board to discuss that is important, but there is enough kids to play. in the spring, but they just choose not to play.
I was under the same impression when you were, the numbers I was getting versus.
And that's why they're not signing up, like.
And that's why they're not signing up.
Because those feeder
I have a
programs
lot more
are doing
information, but
well.
I'm gonna keep it with the board and
Right.
the public, saying there is enough kids to play in Maplewood. They don't wanna combine, because if they do, there's traveling purposes to Cambridge, which a lot of parents don't wanna do that. But they have a core and of kids that wanna play, and they're pretty good. I saw a couple games with them, and they just don't wanna sign up for a reason, so.
All the programs have been.
You're saying like the younger?
Yeah.
The younger kiddos coming up?
Yeah, young kids coming up, and they have to combine a little bit because they don't have enough as far as the high school level is, if they have
Okay.
younger kids, but they do have at least 13 or 14 kids that want to play for this year.
So, I mean, as long as, I wouldn't want to combine if we can't, I mean, we have to circumvent that PIAA rule, otherwise it's unfair to the students, so.
I would,
Yeah.
well, unless we don't have enough students.
Right, yeah. Would it change, it would likely change classification.
I was told
It
it
would
does,
have
because
to.
because of the number of girls, that's what I was
Yeah, I mean,
told.
maybe it still,
And they're
maybe
not.
still in that window, I don't
Yeah.
know, I didn't look at the numbers, I should have
Right.
pulled the PIAA numbers, I'm sure Tom looked at them and you guys looked at
And
them.
Tom has a lot of that,
Yeah.
but
My concern is
I was
you had-
concerned though, we had 3 students sign up, so.
Yeah, they want to sign up, but we can talk to you about it as a board.
To clarify, my question was, PIAA does a cycle every 2 years, they run your numbers and then they classify you.
Yes.
Well, if we're mid-cycle and we add a bunch of numbers, say Maplewood to the
Right.
program, we can be, for like, punished for that, and they can deny playoff qualification in a sport. Actually, I believe any sport.
Yeah, if you
They
bump-
could- if they
you
wanted
bump
to, they
up,
can say no sport
absolutely,
now.
Absolutely.
Football,
You're trying to
basketball,
stack your team, and that's
soccer.
how they prevent that from
Right,
happening.
so, but it's every 2 years, that was my question, the cycle just started, so.
Yes. We'll come back to that. Like I said, this is the very initial, my goal here isn't to shut programs down. My goal is to make sure we're doing the right thing by kids, so anyway. I got a couple questions. We are meeting for the board. We're meeting tomorrow, the other superintendents, talking about the calendar for next year. So I have a couple ideas, but I wanted to run it by the board and get your opinion. Number one is on President's Day. Is there we've had that off. I've looked back in your calendars and you've had that day off. A lot of schools go to school or have an in-service that day. Is the board okay if I would utilize that day either for in-service and or a student day? I'm just checking with the board before I go and recommend anything. I know someone brought it up last month, said something like, why don't we have a board meeting, I believe on, is that you, Ryan? Okay. So I did recall that, right? Is that a problem utilizing that day if we need to? One of the issues next year is, again, with the building and the way Christmas falls, we're trying to look at different dates, and so we're going to hash that out at the VOTEC meeting tomorrow morning. So that was my one question. Now, this one might be a little more controversial in our community. What's your thoughts on the day after the Monday of Thanksgiving? Traditionally, we had off for hunting day. All right? But now that hunting starts on a Saturday instead of Monday, I'm asking. I surely don't want to create a stir within the district, so that's why I'm bringing it up. So.
You wanna make the game commission mad?
I don't know.
Well, they go out Saturday.
My daughter won't be here Monday.
I'm telling you,
She won't be here.
She's coming down with something, right?
Nope, she's going with me.
It's like this, the kids that hunt are gonna come anyhow. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Right.
Yeah, we still,
All right, so leave it alone.
I would,
I
yeah.
would, yes.
it's a big hunting community, I'll say that.
I'm good with it. I just
We're
said.
not in Pittsburgh.
Huh?
We're not in Pittsburgh.
No, we definitely are. All right, we'll leave that one alone, but you're okay with the 16th, if I would utilize that. All right, and we'll bring a calendar to you to look at next month. We're working through it right now, so. All right, very good.
No.
We have the community engagement night Monday, February 24th. It starts at 6:30 at Cambridge Springs High School. That evening, I bring it up here, that evening, we really like to hear from the community. And where we really would like to hear is wherever we're at on these community, we're going to do one at each school. We'd really like to hear from the community, from Cambridge. When we're at Cambridge, let's hear from the Cambridge community. When we go out to Maplewood, let's hear from the Maplewood community. Same when we do Sagertown. So we've set aside 20 to 30 minutes at the end of the community nights to hear from our community. And we do. We want to have honest discourse and hear what is going on, or what you think is going well with the district, where you think we can make improvements. The board wants this. I want this as a superintendent. We've got some other things that the principal's going to have a part in those community nights to kind of showcase or highlight some things that are happening within that particular school. I'm going to share, and/or Patty is going to share on different community nights, talking about from a district-wide perspective of either initiatives we have or what's going on, and then we'll have the community feedback session at the end. So we've set aside 6:30 to 8, and we really would like to see the communities, each of those communities, come out. So we're going to start advertising a little harder here for the next 2 weeks, starting on Facebook and getting that word out in the schools. And so we are looking forward to that. So I just wanted to share that this evening. I have just a very short PowerPoint. Patty, if you want to bring that up for me. So Complete You is as Patty gets that loaded, they provide a free service to school districts, and they come in and they talk to your seniors and juniors about their future plans. I'm a big person. We've got to have good data, right? We showed you some data last month. We started looking at where we're at with our PSSA scores. We started looking where we're at with our PBOS and our growth scores. I wanted to share a little bit what our seniors, and I focused here on the seniors, not the juniors, and just wanted to share a little bit about what they're thinking, what their future plans were, because that informs us as educators about what's the design of learning looking like based upon some of the feedback. So to me, this is as important of data as what we showed you last month with test scores. And this is part of a plan we have to talk to our seniors before they leave to get their feedback. We're going to go a little bit further with this, but this company came in, they talked to the seniors, they would make connections with colleges for our seniors, and then they provided this data back to myself to use. So I'm just going to share some basics with you here. This might be hard to see, so I'll kind of go over. We had 151 students that were surveyed, and this is how many students were surveyed. Roughly half are considering going to a four-year college or university. And the other one, you can see there, we have technical schools. Another big majority wants to go straight to the workforce. That's that pie there to the left bottom there, 31. And then you have the military. I had to look up what a gap year was. A gap year, I guess kids now take a year to either travel or go, I guess, I don't know, experience life. That's what I looked it up, right? Travel to do different things like that. So we had a few students who wanted to do that. We have another big group, our third largest group, is undecided. That makes sense. It's hard to make a decision sometimes of what you're going to do when you leave high school. So I think this gives us, and this is where I thought it would be. I'm not surprised that only about half our students want to be in college. So what's that mean for education? Those are the questions that we're asking. What's that mean? It means that we better start making sure we're focused as much on career, life skills readiness, career readiness as college ready. And so I think that's a job of the educational system. So I'm not surprised by this at all. And then you can see there's some other responses, some of the others over there. I got a couple interesting one. One was to work in a dog kennel, and the other one was to offshore on the rigs, and which is a very high-paying job. So the chart at the bottom, you see how important is college education. There were 103 students who said it's very important, and the 48 students who did not see it as important. So again, this is what our students are looking at doing. If you want to go to the next slide, please. For those kids who were selected college now, the majority of them over here, I'm on the left, want a 4-year public school, then a 4-year private, and then the 2-year community college. And then in the middle there, what college campus are you interested in? This one kind of surprised me a little bit. 41% of our students said urban. They were interested in going to urban, and about 40% suburban, and then 18% rural. So I think that's pretty normal, though. I remember when I went to school in Cochranton, I said, I'm out of here, I'm going to go, you know. So I think kids get that in their mind. They want to experience something different. And then they come back. Then we come back, right? And so, so anyway, you can go to the next slide here. Some of the colleges our kids are looking at, if you blow that up a little bit, Penn State, Maine was the highest on here. Gannon, 20 of our students were looking at Gannon. Penn West University, which is the Edinburgh now, they've changed the names, and so then I think Slippery Rock was coming in around 20. And so, again, those are just a breakdown of the colleges. Over here on the right, what impacts your college decision? And this is 50% said it was affordability. So one of the parts that I've really, Patty and I've been discussing a lot, is trying to bring more college level classes into the high school for our students to have the opportunity to take at a very discounted or free way to do that. And we're looking at various options right now. We've talked to various organizations, because it's either a student could conceivably have 20 plus credits at the end of their career when they graduate, and that would help that affordability come way down. So for us, that's a very important, when I looked at this, that's very important to consider that. Next page. For those who selected the workforce, what industry do you plan to use? There was the other, and you can see over on the right-hand side all the different others, you know, from machining to forensic scientist, not sure yet, residential, HVAC, and the list goes on. The other ones all were about the same, with manufacturing, construction, business, and agriculture. And so, you know, again, very diverse going into the workforce, very much centered. We have some of our students who are at the Crawford County Tech already getting trained for this. Some of our other students will consider, what I don't have up here is they'll consider like a trade school when they come out, to go into a trade school for a year or two to get a trade. And so, so that's what our students are looking for. The bottom left there, that circle, kind of, it's hard to see, I'll explain it, but what type of workplace would you prefer? The vast majority, 83%, said they would prefer a workplace in person, not remote. And so sometimes we talk about our students today, but when we talk to our seniors, they would rather come and be in person. So I thought that was that one kind of caught my attention when I was going through this. So anyway, and then the other little chart there is maybe do you want to attend college at a later time? And a lot of kids said maybe. Next one, please. We do have, not a whole lot of kids said they wanted to go into the military, law enforcement, or fire, EMS, paramedic. If I'm just going to focus on that top left up there. Out of all our students, 2 said Air Force, 1 said the Air National Guard, 4 said the Army, and 1 said the Army National Guard. Go on to the next. So all of our seniors, when choosing an employer, what do you value most? And this one is interesting. Flexibility, a flexible schedule. All right. Now that was not surprising.
They want in person.
What's that?
But they want in person.
They want in person, but they want it flexible. All right.
Yeah.
The other thing it was interesting was health benefits. That a lot of students wanted the health benefits. So they understand as a very young person, 18 years old, 17, 18, how important it is for health care. And so I just thought that kind of stuck out. The next one after that, by the way, is culture and environment. And so we talk about that all the time. We've talked about that on the board here, about what's our culture like, right? And so it's important for our seniors too. So I think we're getting close to the last one. This is an interesting one here. Which mobile apps do you use most frequently? All right. You can see Snapchat led the way. 95 students use Snapchat. Instagram, 92. TikTok, 85%, and then YouTube. Facebook, who, if I did a survey in here, what would most of you use? How many would say Facebook number 1? Facebook, right? So, interesting. I had to look up some of these because I didn't know down at the bottom when it asked what social media platforms do you use. I mean, I've heard of Facebook, Snapchat. This one is a college, the VSCO. I think that's the college one. The ZME, I still don't know what that is. Okay. And so there's some different ones on here. So anyway, I thought that was interesting looking at our students. So I just wanted to share that with you, that we're looking at a lot of different data right now to try to plan for the future in education. And so, and we're going to have more about that on the 24th too. This is going to lead into another discussion on that night at the community nights this fall. Actually, all 3 community nights. So thank you on that.
Can you share this out to us? Can you share this?
Yeah, can you go ahead and put that out? Yep, we'll share it.
So we have it,
Yep,
the
absolutely.
24th.
And we're also going to post that on our website too for everyone. Okay?
Yep.
Yep, so it's, we're not hiding it.
Okay, I think it's great data.
My last point here of my tonight, I do want to, there was a statement that went out about the explosion yesterday at the Parker Lord Corporation in Sagertown. We always look at the safety of our students, and this is not meant as a discussion because I don't have, this is me just making a statement here. We have had communications with local and state officials who are monitoring the air and water quality to ensure the well-being of our school community. So we did check on that, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we have called them and they have shared that with us. If that changes, if any of those qualities change, we will immediately notify on our broadcasting, our messenger, and make sure that gets out to families, parents. Okay, so we are checking. Mr. Dixon and myself are checking on that. So the last thing I'd like to say is thank you for the first responders. You know, sometimes the first responders, we sometimes forget the danger they put themselves in. And we had some injuries, and thank the good Lord above that there was no deaths or fatalities at this point. And so I thank the first responders for doing their job, and for those employees that were there who were hurt. I know I talked to a couple board. I was actually down at the factory eating at the restaurant. So it was pretty close to Mr. Brown was at the other restaurant, correct? Yep. Across the way, and so it was quite the explosion. So we as a I just wanted the community to know that we are definitely actively monitoring that with the local and state authorities. Okay. That is all I have at this point for my report. What's that? I think you're next.
I don't have a lot for you tonight, just wanted to bring you some updates. On the 21st, we had a half day in service where faculty had a half a work day and the other half of the day was in service, and we flexed the day, and that some came in the morning and some came in the afternoon, and we had a math focus where we had building thinking classrooms with Ben Ropes, and we had math concrete representation abstract framework with an IU representative for K-12. We had Steele's foundation boxes for science teachers. We had structured literacy training, Read and Math 180 training, and special ed monitoring in Act 55. So we did a lot with those 3 hours that we had and offered a lot for staff during that time. We will, in March, be bringing you a special ed plan to put up for public review and then be asking you in April to approve it so that we can submit it in May. So that'll be coming at you soon. We also have 11 students currently, Maplewood High School students, that are in the Manufacturing Assistance Center, the MAC Center, at Pitt Titusville. And they started this semester where they were earned 6 credits. They attend a half day. We're in week 2 of that program, and it's going well. Our students are excited about that, so I'm going to share that out. It's a wonderful opportunity for them that we're providing at no cost outside of transportation. And we have several, you'll see on the agenda, there are several speakers again coming into our schools. Our teachers are doing a wonderful job of bringing our community folks into the building to talk with our students in a variety of ways across the 3 attendance areas. So you'll see a lot of them on the agenda tonight. And then I also want to highlight before I turn it over to Mr. Lilly that Mr. Ford and I attended the district band concert at Allegheny College Friday night, and our students did a phenomenal job. Mr. Zurcher was the host, and they hosted it at Allegheny College, and all 3 of our high schools had representation there, and the students were, and the program was phenomenal. It was about 200 students in attendance, so it was fantastic. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lilly so he can bring you up to date on the access points and some security upgrades we're working on.
Just a quick briefing on the access points. I expect, as of about an hour ago, I had no pricing yet from our RFP. I expect that any day now. Once those are here, ordered, we are going to focus on Cambridge Springs Elementary School. I did a walkthrough up there last week, and their coverage up there is terrible. There are areas in that building that during the day they may not have Wi-Fi coverage, or very minimal if they do. There's a lot of factors involved with that. The original installation of them, where they're located, up in a corner, up by the ceiling, is not conducive. Structurally, I think that's probably was the only way they could get a wire to where it was at. But we're going to hopefully focus on that building, try to correct as much of that as we can, as fast as we can, and we're going to focus on the 5th grade classrooms because that's where they will be taking online testing March, April. So that's going to be our focus on that, and then we will actually then go, there's going to be enough access points to do every building in the district with newer technology. The ones we have are 6, 7 years old. Single radio, I think you only have 2 radios. The new ones I'm looking at are 4 or 8 radios in them. Should help the throughput, should help the signal strength. Getting located or installed correctly should improve that dramatically. And we will actually have ordered some extra to enhance areas that we know don't have coverage now, that we can add some where needed. The other project we're working on, as Mr. Ford has said, we are very focused on student safety. So we've been working with Mr. Dixon, Mr. Luke, and our new Director of Safety and Security, looking at all the safety. One of the components of that is obviously communication, and we recognize that the Sagertown Elementary School, I don't point at you, but thanks, I know, your wife's there. It is, to be kind, it's terrible there as well. The system that's in there is not reliable. It's a crapshoot whether they hear announcements. They're relying on, for lack of better terms, walkie-talkies that are placed in the corner of the room. So our plan moving forward is to enhance that system there with a system similar to what is being utilized at Cambridge Springs Elementary and Sagertown High School now, which is, it's actually gone through a product called Informacast Fusion. I think we've talked about that probably before, maybe you've heard the name. We already utilize that company for those 2 schools. We already have licensing for all the phones in the district, so there's no additional cost. This will allow a broadcast to go to all the phones, which they are utilizing it now in most schools. But they can't, it's not a phone was not made to be a speaker. So we're going to enhance that with speakers in the hallways. These are loudspeakers that will be strategically placed around the room, around the building, and they're loud. If you've ever been in Sagertown High School and they go off, they are loud. And I think we're adding, I believe Sagertown, we're putting 12 or 14 more speakers in that building. Up and down the hallways, there will be, we're going to put them in locker rooms, gymnasium, any place that there might be people in when there's an emergency announcement needs to be made, there will be a speaker. Our plan is to do Sagertown Elementary School first, move to Cambridge Springs High School as part of the building program up there. So as the contractors are moving through, we will come in right behind them and add these speakers to Cambridge Springs High School. Before the end of the summer, or at the very latest early in the fall, we will do the 2 Maplewood schools. So all the schools will actually have the same system in place with a reliable PA system. Those PA systems at both Maplewood schools and Cambridge Springs High School were here when I worked here the first time, and that was 1985. Now, these aren't the original components of it. I'm sure they've replaced it, repaired it, but it's the same technology. I've heard from Maplewood Elementary School, sometimes you have to hold the cable just right to get the announcement to go through. I don't think that's a safe environment to have there. So now, that being said, this is minimal cost, quite frankly, compared to what a replacement of a whole PA system would be. And we're looking at having to buy speakers, these horns, they're about $482 a piece. So we're looking at probably less than $10,000 per building total with, labor. If we have to, we'll mount them ourselves. Running wire, we'll utilize what existing wire we can. We are, like I said before, we are already paying the licensing for the phones. We are also covered for the next 2 buildings we do with the licensing we have for the speakers. So the only additional cost for speakers would be for the Maplewood campus. That license, and right now, that platform is very inexpensive compared to what we're using. Do I want to mention?
Well, I think that the other part of that, and you're going to know it better than me,
Okay.
is the availability of the system to expand into the future. There's a lot of different elements. Is it called the duress?
There's
duress package.
A duress package,
Right.
which actually would enable,
Right.
with our existing, mostly with our existing resources, like the phones, the computers, teachers will have the ability to create a panic alarm. We can actually, if we go that route, we can actually give them a lanyard that has a panic button on it. Or we could have a physical panic button at the teacher's workstation, or it could be hitting the space W key or something on the key that'll actually alert whomever we decide gets that alert. It'll also be tied in with our door entry system that we're working with the facilities people with. So if someone comes in the building and they scan their ID and that person is flagged for whatever reason, it'll actually check databases, and if they're not, they don't have their click or whatever, if they're on a wanted list, it'll actually send a message to the security officer or the principal or the superintendent. If it's a custody thing, it'll actually send an alert to the secretary saying, hey, this person's trying to come in the building, and it has actually the ability to lock them down in that vestibule where they can't even get into the building. So this package is really robust. It actually works with our, it'll work with our existing gun detection system for any type of weapons, and send alerts to them, but it also works with other ones too, so it works for whomever. So it's a very robust package it's really a one-stop, interface that we have to manage for a lot of communication. It can do emergency alerts. I don't want to take too much, but just an example, this lowered chemical alert, that could have set off a trigger that would have automatically sent an alert to all families in the district about that incident. It's all canned, or you put them in there, but it'll actually alert depending on what the situation is. It'll send out alerts that doesn't have to worry about me or someone else trying to find a computer to send an alert out. Or if God forbid there's a gunman in there or someone in the office trying to scramble to get to a computer to send an alert out. So I think it's, and the good thing is, we're already paying for most of what we need. So,
In the other schools we've tested, the other schools are happy with the system that we're looking at for the rest of the schools. It's very loud, they speak highly of it, and so.
and it is scalable.
Yeah, and it's scalable into the future, so
Yeah.
that's where we're at with that. So I'm sure you're gonna hear more about this, but the initial part is to get Sagertown Elementary fixed first. Okay. So Mark and I have been doing a lot of looking at systems and looking at our buildings, saying what do we need, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's the timeline look like for it, or at least Sagertown part of it?
As soon as we get the equipment in.
Okay.
There will probably be a purchase order
This
going in
probably
tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yeah.
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 I mean, so,
Okay. Yeah, I got
yeah,
you.
so as soon as the equipment arrives, and with Second Elementary School, most of the wiring is already in place. We're gonna take out the wiring there were speakers in place for the old system that, quite frankly, doesn't work. But we can actually utilize the wiring, because it's already back to our wiring closets, it's already in places that we wanna put speakers. So even the installation will not take time. So once we have it, maybe a week, depending on the facility's availability to mount, so it'll be quick.
Thank you. I introduced Mr. Luke. He's our new Director of Facilities, and this will be his first opportunity to address the board here tonight. First, I also want to say congratulations. They had a little baby girl last week, so congrats on that.
I appreciate it. So I just have a couple quick things to go over tonight. The first thing, which the board will see before them, is electric supply agreement with Dynegy, which was formerly Energy Harbor. It's our energy consultant provider. We are coming due on a new energy agreement. It's up in March. We signed a 4-year agreement back in 2021. We've been working closely with them on a renewal. It's their recommendation at this point that we lock in either a 14-month or a 26-month renewal based on the volatility in the market, to not lock in something too long-term, because the prices at this point are considerably higher than they were 4 years ago. So what we're looking to do is get your approval to enter into an agreement with them, either for a 14-month or a 26-month term, and to lock that in when we're told the best price is available. Kristen, did I miss anything on that?
No, you're good.
All right.
Just know that the price is going to go up. We were at a little over 5 cents last time, and we're looking right now about 8 cents. So every cent is about a $10,000 increase with our needs, so we are probably looking at a $30,000 increase this year on those few accounts.
Is that about the lowest they offered, was 14 months?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like to do a 12 because you want an overlap, like we're in now, like,
Right.
in March, in case if the pricing changes substantially, we could go into, we could lock it in now or
Right.
later, so that they recommend not doing 12 months. So 14 is the lowest.
Yeah, I asked the same, because I was thinking with change, leadership, maybe some of those rates would come down, so. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. The only other thing I have is we also have a list of items that we're looking to put up on municipal bid. This is older pieces of equipment, maintenance items, older items in our fleet that we're looking to dispose of. We've, the team has done a good job kind of upgrading our fleet of equipment over the last several years, getting more current, and kind of right-sizing our equipment. So this is a list of items that we feel no longer utilize the district, and we'd be looking to sell them off and get what we can.
What are we looking for Are we gonna need replacements for most of these, or are they just not utilized?
No, we've already replaced one of the vehicles, the trucks in the fleet on this list. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking for another mower. And other than that, we're in pretty good shape equipment-wise. So this is pretty much just a list of items we're not we're not using, and we're looking to get what we can out of it. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have one. Do we have the capability of spreading sand or just salt?
Just salt.
Okay. I'm getting a couple complaints about this overflow parking lot between the two buildings. It's pure ice, and I know we can't put salt down on that.
Right.
Well, we've never maintained that. That was what that always was for, was overflow. A lot of times that parking lot was done just for your ball games. Everybody else's, the lots are up above, that's where everybody was parking. I mean, you have, he's down there where he's at, but we've had very, very few coming in, and we plowed it, I think, when they had a wrestling tournament up there, but we have not maintained that lot at all.
One complaint that I did get over the weekend, young lady said they didn't have any more parking permits up at the upper lot, and was having to park down there, and it's fairly slick with that ice.
I'm not sure of that, but we can find that out tomorrow, see if they have more permits that way.
All right, next up, Tony is transportation.
Tony Meredith,
This is
doing that. She's like, I'm sorry.
I did, I could see over you.
He was picking on you, didn't he?
I couldn't see through his head.
Richard got introduced last month.
big
Tony Merritt is now doing your transportation.
Okay, the last couple of weeks in transportation has been really interesting. There's been a lot going on. We had to consolidate 2 routes, one in Cambridge and one in Sagertown. For obvious reasons, we are at a serious shortage of drivers. It's a real problem right now. With these consolidations, that does not leave us any more wiggle room that we can, a lot of times they could pick up kids from otherwise, they're full. There's no wiggle room as to capacities for what we are rostering for these buses. They are full, so the driver shortage is real. We've had the bus companies reach out about advertising at our different sporting events because they are struggling. Van drivers and bus drivers are both. We are always changing, so there's never the same driver twice. You could have a sub in there one day, you could have a regular driver in there one day. Could be a new driver. So it's a constant rotating, which makes for very inconsistent times and everything like that when it comes to driving. The weather's not helped with all the problems we've had too. And we are dealing with a lot of problems with winter maintenance in these townships. A lot of the townships are not maintaining the roads as well as we need them to do for these drivers, and they're struggling. They're struggling out there. So those are big things right there with that. I found out through a couple different districts that they have been implementing an option that they do, an opting out option, where parents that are going to self-transport or students that drive themselves, they sign a form at the beginning of the year like we do with all of our other alternate stop forms, and they opt out of transportation, which would give me the benefit that I could take them out of our system, and that's a seat on a bus that we would not have. It's an option we can have. According to these couple districts that I've talked to, they've had about a 10% return rate, so it's been very helpful and beneficial for them when there's such a shortage. Something to consider that we want to do. On an average, this is what I have between the elementary schools, between all 3 elementary schools, I have an average of 222 kids that are being transported by their parents right now. I have 153 students that are driving themselves that have permits within the district right now. So that's a lot of students that I could take off of that I have currently rostered on buses that would give us some more room that I'm counting for that don't ride. Something to think about there.
So Tony, I'll stop there.
Sure.
I've reached out a couple of districts and talked to Tony about this, and I would absolutely recommend that we do this. It doesn't mean that a student can't change their mind and then call back and say, I want to ride, but what it does is it helps us in our planning and our route planning for that coming year. So if the board would see that as acceptable, I think it's definitely something we should try going into next year. We'll communicate it out well, but I think it's worth a shot for sure, because you just heard the numbers. Because they're all placed on a bus, but a lot of them aren't coming. So if the parents would tell us that, now all of a sudden we have a better accurate view of how many students we actually have. So
well, my question would be, if, let's say, a student opts out of it, but then their car dies, and for 1 week they need a ride, how's that gonna work? I mean, and I would say the majority of the kids are probably within the middle or end of a route, I mean, it's really not gonna change our routes. I know it's gonna change the number of people on the bus, but it's not really gonna change routes because unless there's 5 kids at the very end, you could change the route, but if they're placed in the middle, so would we just be able to add that kid for a week?
I'll help her with this a little bit, because I vetted this probably 10, 12 years ago, and I know that he had talked to Jordan. We are offering the transportation. If you are opting out and you decide you need to come back, we will provide you that transportation. But if we've taken the routes and redesigned them somewhat, and I gotta, have to circle, it's gonna take a little bit of time to do that reroute. So you're exactly right, and it may last a week, it may last 2 weeks. That's transportation. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that you're doing this is, if you're not counting the kids on here, we'll go against what the reimbursement is. But where you come back at it is where are you on the number of buses that you need to put out there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still maintaining contracts that you have with your bus companies and things along that line. You know, so that I think it's a big data gathering thing on her part of it to be able to put together and say, this is what kind of what we're doing. And we have, she's been very, very instrumental in, we just did the consolidations of route like she talked about. That is what we've kind of had to do based on, a lot of factors coming in.
Yeah, what's the reason for the shortages? Why all of a sudden?
It's not.
It's nationwide.
It's nationwide?
Yeah, it's nationwide, not just us. It's
Is it
everywhere.
because of the money? Is it, what is, I mean?
Well, some of them get paid too much, some of them get paid enough. So there's various reasons. I don't really directly know. Some of them don't even finish the training. A lot of them don't even finish the training. We'll go and approve them for here, and they've not even finished. Like, you'll see the ones that are on your list for today. I wouldn't be surprised if more than half of them they dropped out before they even finished. So they're not even getting, we're approving them, but they're not even going to be there.
And you've had drivers, you have some very good drivers here within the district who've been around here for a long time. It's just a matter, as they're kind of going out, it's just, are you able to bring people back in? And I think every industry around is struggling to find people. So this is.
And it's a unique times, the times to drive a bus, you know what I mean?
With kids in it.
Yeah, with kids in it.
We're not just driving a bus, we're driving a bus with kids.
Well, no, I'm saying even the time, right? I'm saying you can have a morning route,
Right.
and then you have an
I see what you're saying,
afternoon. And so it just makes, there's pay in there, and so there's lots of factors to that.
That's why a lot of our bus drivers are, retired farmers, because they can do that.
Yeah.
But now they're at that age where they're like, the kids are getting harder to deal with, the townships aren't keeping the roads clean, I hear all kinds of complaint about that. They're like, for $80 a day, it's not worth it anymore.
The state made it tougher to get the CDL as well. Where most people cannot pass the CDL test the first time, they're having to take it 2, 3, 4 times. They're saying, what's the use for the money that I'm gonna make?
Right.
It's also the DOT certification. They have to be not on certain meds.
Yeah. Also, yeah, right.
Tony, my interest would be to get your roster. How many buses, how many students per bus? Once things settle down a bit, how many vans, how many students on the
I can do that
vans?
to you any day. It's right on my system, it's right on my, in my computer,
Yeah,
any day.
if that could be emailed to the board, we can see, but does it have purpose for being in their own van?
The reason why they're on the van, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, does that state that, or do you know why?
I don't know.
A lot of times I don't know all the reasons why.
We can't tell you
We're
that.
not
allowed
We
to know
can't
that.
give you that.
Yeah, I don't.
Privileged information.
No, I had already spoken to him about that.
Yeah.
And we're working, but there's certain things we won't be able to give you, just because of the law, that's all. But we can give you a general, you know what I mean, we can give a general idea.
I think we passed something out back in the beginning of the year. We passed out like where we currently are with the number of buses that were on the road, what the vans were. It was I think a compilation of
That
where
was,
we had
last spring we did that.
It was
I
I think it was last
don't
spring.
remember.
Is that last, I was gonna say, I don't remember that
No, we did a
since I've been here.
PowerPoint last spring.
So I'm sure the van numbers change all the time, but it
Daily.
would be
Well,
nice to, like,
daily.
once or twice a year,
You have
for us to know.
But you have vans that take care of homeless, you have vans that take care of special
Yes,
needs.
IEP,
And it does change weekly.
disciplinary.
Daily, yeah. And just so you're all aware that in both of our bus garages, that every employee is driving right now.
Right.
So, and sometimes, like for the new one out there, they don't have anybody in the office because they're all out driving.
So that does cause a lot of problems for communication purposes too, especially when they're out in Maplewood. And I've asked other school districts, they're in the same situation. Everybody drives. Girardi's the same way up there at Fort LaBeouf. Everybody's driving. Everybody in that office has a license. Kids are not. They, as soon as their kids graduate, they can get old enough, they get in there, they're driving as well. So it's a problem. It's a big problem.
Been a lot of accidents this winter too. It's the biggest college showing the one, so.
We had winter.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have to drive in snow.
Okay. All right, my last topic I have here is my TransFinder program has an option that we would talk, Dave's mentioned to you guys before. It's called Stop Finder. It's an app. We were speaking to one of our representatives about it. It's something that parents could download that we could use to do push notifications to get information out to parents. It has another option where you can also add it's a Geo Alert, which would be like a tracking device. These sound great. Of course, they come with a cost, but then also they come with a lot of flaws too. Not always is it going to be accurate when you don't have the service. Biggest thing is that you have to have a high-speed Wi-Fi to even connect to the program for the Geo part. The push notifications would be a problem. That'd be it, and that's a minimal cost. It's $1,800 a year. But it would be redundant with everything else we already communicate out because those would still have to be in play. Because if parents don't sign up for this, or we use those other programs that they actually work, and we still do, you're still gonna have to do everything we're doing now. So those that use School Messenger, those that are using the Class Dojo, whatever they're using, those would still have to be in play along with this. And that was even conversing with a couple of the districts that have these programs, getting their information. They are still using all those. So it's almost like you're redundantly repeating yourselves. My fear is if we put another app out there, even if it's coming directly to them instead of, for example, I get information from the bus company, I then relay the information to the principals then relay that information to the parents. There's a lot of steps to get to the parents, and by the time it actually gets to them, the situation may have changed. Or maybe it's worse, or maybe it's better, you never know. Or there's another situation. With all that mass information going out there, as much as I would love to communicate quicker, how quickly is it gonna be before they just even ignore it? Because it's so much information going out, but repetitive information. So it's something we have to look at with that and how accurate can we be with that one. The Geo one with the tracking, with they can do where the buses are at, I personally don't feel that that's something, but we can look into it further. I don't think the tracking would be very good, especially with our rural areas out here. Talking with the other bus or districts, they've made the same comment too. There are flaws with it. The biggest thing with either one of these programs, if the bus goes down and they have to use a sub bus, there's not enough time to move. You have to move everything over for it to work, otherwise it won't work on the next bus. It has to be on that specific bus that is routed to those kids. So you could have a day where you have no tracking information because they used a substitute bus that broke down or whatever it might be, or had to go on a trip and they used somebody else's bus. So there's a lot of pros and cons to the whole thing. We have to really consider that one before we look into that one. But I am still looking into that if anybody wants me to continue to, but when it comes to communication, it is difficult. It's difficult to get things out quickly and accurately with the constant changes.
Yeah, I think nowadays with most of these kids, 99% of these kids having phones.
They're calling mom and dad
Yeah,
anyways.
and we have Life 360, it's free.
You're tracking your kid anyways.
I can track her anywhere.
Yeah.
And she can track me, you know? I mean, it works just as good, but like you said, you get over around Maplewood, I don't care what you have, you're not getting any information.
Right, right.
I mean, I think the idea is great, but.
And that delay could even
it's-
cause a delay in the whole thing, and then
Right.
you could have another big explosion of problems too.
Well,
so.
we have dead zones throughout the entire district.
Exactly.
I mean, Maplewood by far is worse, but
Right.
there's dead zones all over.
Yeah,
So,
I mean.
I think it's
gonna be too
it's
tough.
waste of time and
A
money.
waste of money, unless it was gonna be a for sure thing that was really gonna work 99% of the time.
Right.
And like I said, with most of these kids having phones and all the apps that parents have already, I think that's
I mean,
just as good.
it's a great, opportunity, but it's just,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it's really worth it with everything else we already have in place right now.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks.
That's all I have.
Kristen?
Nothing else? All right. I don't have very much this month. You'll see the IU5 Access program is on there. This is a reoccurring thing every year. You will notice it's 22-23. That is not a typo. It is a year behind. So that is basically for your IUP students and health-based services, and we use this 22,000 that we'll be getting to offset. I use it to offset the visually impaired cost. You'll notice the audit's on there for approval. Steve went over that. If you guys have any questions on that, you can just let me know. And there are a few budget transfers. Those are basically to correct coding of things. You'll notice the largest one is $30,000 for the iPad cases. We have online testing now, so we have to purchase cases for the iPad. So we're just taking that money from the curriculum budget and putting it into the IT budget. So it's just to correct it so our financial statements are correct. And then you have your treasury reports, disbursements, just their normal monthly items. Any questions?
Questions? Okay. Just, go ahead, just one question, and it's not about this. We were going to start talking and working on the budget in January. We are now in February.
The budget is being worked on.
Okay, do we have an idea of when we will?
You guys usually get the first draft in March, and then we'll have our meetings in April. It's presented to the board and the public in April.
Because we said we were going to try to do earlier this year, rather than waiting until.
Well, we've been meeting with the departments to bring you the initial budget and going through. So that's where we're at in the process right now. We put out all the forms to all the teachers, to all the buildings, to all the departments. They come back.
So we're still going to be in April before we.
No, March.
Okay.
You guys will see the draft in March.
Yeah, you'll get the draft, and then the difference last year is her and I didn't go through it last year and weed through that. So now we've gone through. So when we present it to you, we've already gone through and
Yeah,
then
last year was a little, bumpy, slow start.
Yeah, I think might be much smoother.
Thank you.
Yep.
And quite honestly, in all fairness, it's March and April before we get a lot of numbers. I mean, to where we get a good look at things.
October.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating thing that we don't.
When the state approved their budget, it was October.
Yeah, you can look at it January, but it's not even close to gonna be right.
Right.
Yeah, he just gave his first budget address last week. So we just got preliminary numbers, and those will obviously change by the time we approve a final.
We had our professional organization, I went to a webinar this morning to hear about the budget from the governor. So literally, we just talked this morning after that, talking about that. So some good, some not so good, and hopefully see where we go. Citizen comments on agenda items. Okay. Number 4, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the following minutes: January 13th, 2025, and January 30th, 2025. That was the special voting meeting to do the approval to write the grant on the 30th. So I'm seeking approval for that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Under policies, first reading, we have 2 policies we brought to your attention. The first is 006. The 006 policy, this is a change to reflect the order of business that we changed for the combined meeting. So that needs to be changed within the policy. So
we're removing roll call?
No, we've combined it under one.
So the lines.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So instead of being a major heading, they're just listed all under. So that's how Bob did it tonight. He did the roll call, and then he did the pledge, and then yep.
I'm not quite understanding it, sorry.
Okay.
With crossing out roll call and flag ceremony?
So the call to order, all that's under the call to order.
Okay.
Okay.
I get.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So the call to order now has the
It's
roll.
not all line items.
Yes.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
Make
I
sense?
gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we're not doing away with that, absolutely.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
well,
just,
You look at it crossed out.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah. No. So, no, these are the major headings that are listed there. Now, I don't think it would be a problem. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, if you want that listed out, and we could put that under A to reflect that, if you would want that?
Yeah, you could do that.
Just so we have it in policy, just so it's listed there, if you'd be more comfortable with that, we could do that.
Yeah, you can do that, Sean.
That's all right, okay. So we could do that, just to make sure, 5 years from now or 10 years, we're not here, you know, and they're not seeing
I
it.
think that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Is it possible to suggest a change to the moment of silence to a moment of prayer/meditation? Is there any reason we can't do that, rather than just have a moment of silence?
it's technically not under our order of business right now as well.
That was a gentleman's agreement we had. The moment of silence, wasn't it? It seemed like just.
Yeah, you're right.
A moment of silence is for whatever that person wants to do.
Correct. So that could go in, so the moment of silence could go back to what we just said. It could be under the call to order, because that's what we do now.
Right.
We have it listed. We have the roll call, we have the pledge.
Okay, so no interest in
I'm
I don't know
not
if you could
further.
force somebody to pray and or meditate. I don't, that's like giving them a
Well,
description.
you're only naming two, there's a lot more other ways to do that.
Yeah, you need to think out, this is a policy that's gonna extend well beyond this board. I think moment of silence is pretty much
It's the
socially
most general
acceptable.
way to say
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Most,
Because you gotta cover if you wanna start listing them specifically, you'd have to name, I don't know,
Exactly.
Then you get
15
into the-
different ways
yeah.
to do it, because everybody has another word for it.
Then you get into the compelled speech argument.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree, but we have moments of prayer all throughout our, the House of Representatives has set aside, prayer. I definitely think it could be listed, but that's a decision that everyone would have to make whether or not it is listed. Because legally, you could list that. I'm positive of that. There would be nothing wrong with
That's
that.
Jordan, right?
Jordan, you want to weigh in on that?
Not during public session, but I'd be happy to write a memo on it to the board to consider.
Can I just make one comment? When we had conversations about groups, if you recall, if you let one, you have to let the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a box of Pandora that probably should not be open.
But that's always the argument.
It's-
If we
I'm
could do
telling
it
you right now,
if we could do
it
it at
should
a
not be
federal
open.
level in
That's
our
my
government,
opinion.
why can't we do it at a local level? I don't see people burning crosses at the federal level because they're having a prayer. It always seems to be that's the excuse not to do it, because, we're gonna open a can of
Well,
worms,
we're
and
not
yet,
gonna resolve
we
it in
don't
this
have
meeting,
that.
so can we let?
Let's see what.
Well, we'll wait
Jordan
to
has
see
to
what
say.
Jordan comes
Yeah.
up with, thank you.
The second one is an update to policy 254, and this was the educational opportunity for military families. They've extended this to the National Guard or the Reserve, in addition to the other members of service. That's what the major part of this change was, is to extend it, and it should be extended to them also. So it just gives their right, if they're in there, that their students have the right to certain educational requirements. So definitely recommend that.
Yep.
So that's the first, there won't be any, there's no need for a vote on that, it's the first reading. Any other questions on that one, let me know here as you read through it this month. Under approval, we have the 109.2, the library materials. That was a change to July to June, just because that would be the board meeting. And that would be the last possible. We have to do it by June. We may very well bring it to you in May, but we had to have that. And then the other one was the purchase subject for bids or quotes, and that's just it's an annual change to that number, to those figures. And that will be, we will be seeking approval on that here this evening. Any questions on any of those? Yeah, I'm coming. Just want to make sure there wasn't any questions. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approved following policies, 109.2 and policy 610, as just discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Education report, we need to make a motion to amend the wording in letter E. And if you'll just go to letter E under the educational report, that's for the access points. And because, as Mark indicated here tonight, we don't have the exact bids, but we also don't want to put that off. So I'm asking the board to change the wording of this motion. So I'll read how I would like it to be, and then if we could have a motion on that amendment. So resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the purchase of access point at a one-time cost not to exceed $296,515.64. This has been submitted to E-rate funding, which will result in a discount of 80%. The district will be responsible for 20% of the cost not to exceed $59,303.13.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
So with that language change, we'll go back to the educational report now for the consent agenda. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda education items B through G.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
We don't list what the Town of Alliance donation was. And that is in C. It says Town of Alliance Club donation. And then it goes over the 15 different games for the nurses department.
So that's, I believe that was their donation. That's what their donation was used for, is my understanding.
That's what they actually.
So they bought the 15 toys with it, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's it.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Facilities transportation. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda for facilities and transportation items B through D.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 8, the financial report. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda financial items B through F as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Personnel report. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda personnel items B through H as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
New business, do these individually. A, resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the dissolution of memorandum of understanding, school police officer agreement with the Borough of Cambridge Springs and the Cambridge Springs Police Department effective immediately.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Resolved that the Penncrest Board of School Directors approve the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with the Penncrest Area Educational Association regarding grievance number 09-10-24.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Letter C, under new business, resolve that the Penncrest Board of School Directors permit the business manager superintendent to execute a contract with Dixon Builders for consulting services for transportation in the Giza Phase 5 project not to exceed $17,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 11, under announcements, the board met for executive session on February 10th, 2025 for personnel, legal, confidential student issue. And I would request that we have a short executive after the meeting tonight for personnel.
Okay.
Okay. Any citizens comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. President.
Entertain the motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.